we got the video working.
So everything is working.
When more than one soul comes together, there's the learning to work with and without each other. It's learning to, be in sync or out of sync. And that sometimes becomes the difficulty because there's all these little differences that you have to work with. Now, Jen and I, we've been doing this for over 20 years as far as the combination of learning, growing. The healing tools just came in the last maybe 6-7 years. I don't even remember how many years now. And it seems like every year there seems to be one or two that keeps adding. There's different things that we can do.
Shit. That's a good thing, right?
Okay, so it just died again. We're still determined to do a show. While she's doing that, I have to get... Hi! This is Brenda Bates, Medicine Woman, and we are here tonight. It's 8:42 on a Monday night. We're 40 minutes late. We're not sure exactly what happened, but we're getting all the glitches out. I'm Brenda Bates, Medicine Woman. This is...
Jen Toffel, Medicine Woman.
And Scott Bates.
And Scott Bates. He's my apprentice. What does that mean? It just means that he's learning all about how to become a spiritual human. Learning a different way of living. And my husband likes to tease and call himself names. That's fine.
No.
So, if you have any questions, anything, want to know why life has happened the way it is, like for instance, my question is that we seem to be having, this is happening to us, so that's like 3 souls that are strictly involved. So I'm going to ask, why is this happening to me where we can't get this show to be on bond, right? It's on flee mode. And is this about me? It's about how I pick up other people's energies. Okay, so there's a part of me that wants to run. It has to do with that I feel like,
because it's their stuff that sometimes you just don't want to handle the fact that you pick up other people's stuff.
Well, I get the choice to not participate, and then there's sometimes you have no choice but to participate.
Right, I was going to say,
so
if you're on autopilot.
Right, if I'm going to honor or dishonor, and if I have no choice, then I'm going to honor what's going on in the moment. So, now I'm going to ask... why is Scott having this projected? And basically he's just going along with the flow. Okay, Jen, because this is part of her baby as well. So Jen, why is this being projected for you? And it's about your dreaming. Now you're able to dream the way you want to dream. Give me a chance. Okay, 3 years old. So 3 years old, you had to start following everybody else's rules.
Right, which is when my mom went back to work and I had to go to preschool.
Okay, and so now I've got to ask a little bit more, what does this play in her world? And that is the reassuredness, the false self-reassuredness. The false self is not the higher self, and it is when we over-identify with the stuff that we have going on. One of the things that Jen and I have been observing is different words like closure. Some people believe that there's never a closure, and then what we've learned in experience is that we have tools to actually create closure, because you can feel the emotional baggage disappear and you can feel the mental talk stop. There's no work on your behalf as far as to constantly do positive thinking. It is basically to run the energies in your body and help reprogram your frontal lobe, which creates your reality. So Jen, you were talking about, what's the TV show?
Oh, the TV show that I like to watch on Netflix. I'm not advertising for them, but that's how I watch things, is how I Met Your Mother TV show. And there was a character who, the guy that she was seeing, went off and took a job in a different city, and so it was just like, well, she had the opportunity for that job, but she didn't take it because she wanted to stay and honor the relationship, and he decided to go.
Oh.
And so then she just...
was she a little upset by that?
Oh, she was devastated. I mean, she went through one of the, you're supposed to have a funny thing where you see this girl just a complete train wreck, and she's eating Cheetos and just stopped taking care of herself because she was just so devastated. So that was an episode. But then this one particular episode, she caught...
Keep talking.
She caught the guy. The cable brought in the TV show, so she was trapped watching the TV show.
Yeah, I'm just bringing down the volume controls, Jen. No worries, just talk.
I just
I'm
want to make sure
honoring
we're
you,
good.
babe.
Okay, cool. So the TV show.
Yeah.
The cable network brought up the TV show. She was forced to sit there watch it, so she drank some alcohol and is sitting there yelling at the TV, blah 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 blah. Did some drunk dialing, da 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 da. Ha 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 ha. She goes to the bar the next time because that's where they hang out, and her friend's like, "Wait a minute, something ain't right. What's going on?" She's like, "Oh God, you're too good. Okay, fine. This is what happened." Da, da, da. She's like, "Oh, you need to delete them out of your phone so that you won't do that anymore. And she's like, oh, "Well, there's no such thing as closure. Is that how you're supposed to do closure?" "Yes, that's how you're supposed to do closure. Is just delete them out of your phone." And so then it went on to show about how other people weren't willing to do that because if they deleted those phone numbers, that meant that they were they lost that connection to that part. Like one guy, this guy was booked their band, this funky band or whatever. He goes, if I delete that phone number, that means I lost that connection to being that funky person. Oh, if I delete this phone number, then I've lost that connection to being
something, their personality.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's a connection to that part that they want to maintain of themselves. So if they delete it, then they have to give up that part of themselves. And so it's really interesting. I just really looked at it.
Loss in many different directions.
Right. So I was just watching and observing, like, oh my gosh, this is how the world views how you're supposed to do closure, how you're supposed to move on, how you're just supposed to like keep going and it doesn't matter and just do it.
And so this is one thing that I kept asking: why is there sicknesses and disease? Why is there relationships with people that, are just there fighting? 30 years later, I watched families of mine where they just couldn't stand each other, and when death appears, oh, I love them. But you hadn't talked to them in 10 years. Why all of a sudden do you love them? And then they've almost started honoring and cherish them and put them on a pedestal. And I've got nothing against that. It's just that's the way they coped and handled with loss.
The lost possibility. It meant even if they weren't going to pick up the phone and call them, there was a lost possibility.
And people really want to reclaim what is lost. And grief is one of the major things because someone is unable, what's that?
They love how clear we are sounding.
Awesome. We like that
great,
idea. Thanks
great.
for the feedback. But here is the main huge thing, though. When I ask God, why is there sickness, all I kept hearing is there's no closure. And I asked, what do you mean by there's no closure? And I was shown energy cords between people that were, the healthy ones were beautifully golden and silver, and then you could see the 7 colors that were just rainbows that just went through, and it was just beautiful. It sparkled. And then when I saw a relationship that was unhealthy, you would see the notes. Okay? And let me explain this. When it's in a healthy relationship, that means the 12 notes in this person and the 12 notes in that person are balanced, where they're in sync, communicating back and forth, and there is no control issues, no control dramas, and there's actually a balance. It's just no fighting, okay? Which then I said, all right, then show me again what was the negative, or what was unhealthy, because it's not always negative, so it's unhealthy. And then I saw the 12 notes in the person, and they weren't balanced. And then I looked at the 12 notes in the other person, they weren't balanced. So then what I started noticing was that if they're really in a strong relationship, there'll be notes that's missing in one person that the other person has too much of. So, and then the ones that have too much of, and not enough in the other, again, it came together like a puzzle piece. Then there are some people that come together that had too many of the same notes out of sync. That means just that there was too much or not enough. And they ended up clashing. Okay, you have actually balanced notes, looks like a bell curve. You can look at Voice Bio. Kay Thompson has created a wonderful machine. I even have one of them myself. That's how much I was really into vibration of sound and the vibration of words. They create a vibration of noise. But what happens is that when there's not closure, you're constantly trying to feed off each other. You're trying to find what is lost and reclaim. And what I do is called cord switching in one of the healings I have. And if you went to our website at MWReveal.com, you would look to the left-hand side and there's healing tools. And when you click on that, there's a whole bunch of healing tools, but one of them is called cord switching. And some people have said, well, it's the same as cord cutting, like in Huna tradition. Yes and no. The concept was there. They showed me many years ago, and then I was introduced to Huna, and I thought, oh, I was doing it wrong. And they go, no, 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 no. There's many ways of doing this. In this case, it is an exchange process. So if Jenna and I had gotten an argument, our cords would be off balance. It'd be like a tug-of-war game. You know, who's going to be in charge? Mm-hmm. And then you will feel like a loss. If she's pulling too hard on me, I'll feel like I've lost something. She took something from me. But then, if I feel like she's pushing her stuff on me, then it'll be just like she's trying to shove me over and her crap is on me. So, and a part of the cord switching is that there's a purple heart in the Dancing Violet Flame. Some of you know all about Violet Flame healing. And what happens is that that's the transformation. The energy goes through the heart. It's transformation. So, if I feel like she put her goobers on me, I will push it through the cord, through the heart, and say, you know, give it back to her. But let's say she was really malicious and mean. Well, then I have a treasure chest underneath the heart, which means I just take her goobers off and it goes into the treasure chest so that it doesn't empower her. Because sometimes our imagination just really destroys the show. I mean, really can run wild. So as I took the relationship and started cleaning off the goobers, all of a sudden the scale from 0 to 10, you know, the self-talk, the anger, all of that started to slow down. And I didn't quite think about it anymore. And I'm thinking, I'm not that angry. But I still feel like she took something from me. So then I will grab from her my strength, my power, that what I want to reclaim. Because her dream was pimped into my head and I became her hoe. But because there's a pimp and hoe hierarchy in this world, it's the archetypes.
The ghetto physics.
The ghetto physics. There's a great DVD on that. It's called Ghetto Physics. I recommend that you listen to it. But it's not just having the knowledge, it's having the tools to transform. So when you do the cord exchange, and if she wasn't playing with me, she doesn't even have to be present. I can put a picture out or I can use her in my mind and literally go, oh my gosh, and just start taking how I know it and just start pulling it out. Okay? And then reclaiming. What happens is that eventually the number is going to change. And all you're doing really is the frontal lobe is how you create with. The submodalities to what are modalities? Well, it's our sensory system. And our sensory system we take in life in that way. It's the submodalities, which is the eyes to see, but when you see it, is it inside or out? Is it to the left or to the right? Is it small or is it huge? Is it picture framed or is it panoramic? That's what's called a submodality. All the ways that you would use that sensory system to create your reality, to recreate your reality, to, you know, it's what's called reprinting the code in front of you so that the illusion of life can keep reproducing itself. And when that occurs, you really need to understand that when you're healing, you can tell yourself what you need to, because your subconscious mind is the one that runs the show, and you are the one that also programs the subconscious mind. So it's always obeying you, it's always listening, and it listens to your orders. Now, how does it happen? And how come some things don't happen if the subconscious mind obeys you? The subconscious mind, usually when our brain waves, and there's the conscious state where you're wide awake, and then there's the delta sleep, you know, where you're sleeping really heavy, but then you got theta and beta. And what happens is that these are the stages where, like for instance, when you're watching TV, the alpha wave, like for instance, you're watching TV and you're so engrossed in it that you tune out and delete everything around you.
You notice this with children.
Yes.
I hear this quite often. The parents want the kids to do something. They're like, I can't get them away from the television set. They're like little whatever sitting in front like, hey, were you supposed to do the chores? Nothing. Cricket, cricket, cricket. No response. All of a sudden you have to like break in to really get their attention level.
And I'm glad you said break in, because that's what happens to the subconscious mind, is that when you really have programmed yourself, it's usually when you have to hit a bitch slap, rock bottom, hit by a Mack truck, whatever words you want to use, be careful how you use them. But it is when it throws you off center and you have to react into a shocked wave, and that it's that shockness that I can't process this, that it literally hits you on a certain brain wave, which is usually the theta state, that it only for a split second, what will happen is it's programmed. A lot of hypnotherapists know this, that when you're talking, you wait for the peak point, and then you say, this is what you need to do. You smell popcorn? And then what happens is that you say cue words so that your mind can set what you need to do. There's a lot of these things that people think, oh, is that because it's hypnotherapy, that's hokey pokey. If you take the interesting information from all of them, you will get a clear understanding what happens. So, how do we learn? The subconscious mind listens to you. When you're telling yourself positive stuff, you're not actually creating a peak moment. You're actually at a state where you're too conscious. Your brainwave is too active, too alert. And then there is the theta healing, or when you allow yourself to brainwaves to get into the theta state, which you drop down. And as you get into that state, that's where a lot of the programming can take place. So why is it important? When you talk about not having closure, when you're in shock and you can't process it, is usually when you've marked it, when the subconscious mind goes, oh, okay, wait a minute, you didn't process this, then it stores it into the energy system of our body. And a promise that we're going to come back later. Why? Did we promise that? Well, we probably didn't. But the part of the program is the subconscious mind's number one job is to preserve the body. So it scans the body looking for energy loss. So as the subconscious mind scans the body and says, oh, over in the liver seems to be an issue, and it's been marked of when it happened. You know, I go and I look and usually tell what year, what's the story behind it, and what's the emotion. And so when I start talking about it, people are saying, oh my God, that sounds like me. It's so familiar. Yes, it is, because it's how you know it. You have it so programmed in you. Usually the thing is that people don't know how to do closure, except for some physical form of act. That's why we use cord switching, hope therapy, meridian tapping.
Right, and then you just decide, yep, I'm done with that.
And you got to say enough's enough.
Well,
because,
I mean, that's the human. Human. Okay, and that was in the TV show. Yep, I'm done with that.
Yeah,
and it's like,
what's your breaking point? But if you don't have enough knowledge, you will do physical acts like delete them out of your phone, but it still doesn't take care of the foundation.
Because your thoughts are still going there, even if they're not in your phone. Because
the first experiences are what's important that creates for this illusion that you have when you're in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and no matter what age you are, it always starts back to the foundation. That's why we're so different, because it's that first reaction that we have as humans. Well, we're glad that you're with us tonight. Finally let something go. It is usually a relief. But most people tell you to let it slide off you like water off a duck's back. And that just means what? Stuff it.
Right, and if you can't do that, then there's something wrong with you.
And, you know, you can't take a joke. You've changed since this.
You're too sensitive. You just need to, like, put your big girl pants on and just go through life.
And what happens is that your subconscious mind reminds you later. Oh, somebody just looks just like him, or our favorite song came on.
Or the car they drove.
And yeah, I mean, I remember sitting over Scott's house one time, this is before we dated, and we're watching a TV show, and the next thing you know, the song come on. I don't know if we put it onto MTV or what it was, but all of a sudden it just hit me, because I was not expecting that. And I felt like such an ass in front of Scott, because it just was so deep.
And I never thought anything like that.
But for me, it was, I honestly thought I'd got over it. I wasn't thinking about it, and then all of a sudden, bam, it hit me. It was just so fresh, as if it just happened yesterday.
It was 28 years ago.
Wow, that's a long time. But, so then it became, okay, so that letting go of, there must be another way to let it go. You know, and as soon as it happens, you're supposed to feel it hurt, and then you're just supposed to, okay, fine, stuff it down. Well, none of that was very good for me. I realized that you need to actually create the closure. And the closure that I'm talking about is literally taking this chunk that you could not process and giving yourself a tool to, you're going to think it anyway, and even if you're not consciously aware that you're doing it, you may as well use a tool. So like with Hope Therapy is based of the 12 meridians. And the 12 meridians are related to the 12 notes in the body. And what happens is they're vibrating out of sync, in sync, through in and through, changing form at all times. Well, in Chinese medicine, they show you the pulse points. And I thought, oh, how easy access this is. Because the 12 meridians have emotions. And so I wrote down all the negative emotions, and I wrote it in my little cheat sheet here. And I lined them up and said, okay, here are the like for instance, the small intestine, and that's one thing I have to learn about. And it's like, do you feel lost? Do you feel vulnerable? And what people, when they check, they look right now, no, I don't feel that. Do you feel abandoned? Deserted? No, don't feel that. Absent-minded? No. Depressed? No. Profoundly deep, unrequited love. You're not getting any. You're not getting love. No, you're totally wrong. I'm not asking you right now. Did you have this happen to you last week? Where was the fresh experience that any of this happened? And they'll like, no. And then I'll say, well, did you ever have it happen in your past? Well, yeah. Well, tell me a time. And usually what happens, Jen?
All of a sudden it's like, you get that epiphany. It's that aha moment of like, oh yeah, it did happen. And then all of a sudden,
the emotions rush.
And you go through story time. And they just are telling the story as if that experience had happened yesterday.
And what happens that I see is that everything lights up where you're losing the most energy, how your brain is saying, I don't want to recreate this. But what happens is the frontal lobes, and they go in like a map, and then these certain things have to trigger on and say, this is the way you're supposed to react, this is your strategy, this is your program, and the only way to survive is you act this way and you do this. And what happens with the Hope Therapy is that I have you find a pulse point. I'll tell you which one, and I'll tell you to take and put your thumb on it and push hard or soft. Once you've done that, and usually you put your finger in the palm of your hand, because the palm is all about, either side is about guilt and shame. But here's the big thing. Guilt and shame is not just guilt and shame. Guilt can be about false pride, false self-assuredness, haughtiness, arrogance, contempt, loftiness, mortification, and disdainfulness. This is just the guilt side. The shame is humility, embarrassment, wounded pride, self-conscious, which was right or wrong, awkwardness, bashfulness, dishonored, bullied, and disgraced. And Spirit handpicked all these words from what they told me, what I found on the internet from many, many different people that believe the emotions that come from all of these things. And then what I do then is have you think it already. If you already know the topic, you already know what the issue is, and if I asked you to put it on a scale from 0 to 10, why do I ask that, Jen?
The point is that you need to be engaged in what's going on, and if you can put it on the scale, then that's how much you know it, and with the number, you're getting your left brain involved.
And it's the intensity of how much you know it. That's how much energy usually you're wasting. And usually I say 1 to 10, but we've hit up to 10 billion in us.
Right.
What's the red or the color mean?
That is engaging the right brain, so you have both hemispheres of your brain involved in the process, and the point is that ultimately want it to get to white or clear so that there's no color. And the color it's not a judgment of, oh, what does that color mean? It's just that there's a color associated, which means that your right brain is doing something and is involved. And then when you get it to white or 0, then that means that it's cleared out.
Now, we don't want you to give yourself false self-assuredness and go, oh, yeah, and then deeply imagine it. That's not going to help you because you're too active in your conscious brain. We want you to just focus, and your hand will be there sometimes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The highest I went one time was, well, an hour and a half, but that's because I fell asleep too. But it was a really doozy of a thing. You heal in bed. I heal anywhere. We heal in the shower. We heal in bed. We heal all over. But as my hand was there, you're thinking it. But if you're consciously saying, okay, I'm going to do this. This is my choice. I'm going to look at it. And your hand is on your forehead and your hairline. The forehead there's 2 points called the "oh my God" points, and that's usually when you grab your head and you just can't believe it. And what happens is the fight, flight, freeze. This is the stage you will go into, which is an instinctual part of you, but being becoming domesticated, it becomes stuck. 80% of the blood will leave the forebrain and go to the arms and the legs to run from a tiger and a bear.
Or to fight it.
And then to fight it, and when you watch, again...
Or you're frozen, or the blood is there, and it's in your body, but you're just stuck. You're frozen.
And you don't have those things that you normally would run from or fight with. And so, if you don't, those chemical peptides vibrate, and they need to go somewhere anyway. Now here's an interesting part. Have you anybody attack you and just tank you? Tanking is just that they had a bad day and they let it out on you.
You know, I used to, back in the day, in my 20s, I had jobs as being a receptionist. Mm-hmm. And people in the office, it's so funny because, you know, I often think of, the office and office space. But they go by the receptionist because it's somebody to talk to. You know, they can have an excuse to get up from their desk and walk around the office and do that kind of thing. It's a social little thing, but they'll come by. And then sometimes they would just walk by the desk and just unload. And it's like they would explain, you know, sometimes it was good stuff. And oh my gosh, I'm going out with this guy, I'm doing this, we're going out, we're doing all this stuff. But then there were the times where it's just like, they'd walk by like, oh my God, you know, but then it was like, you know, they expect drama in their life. So it was just like you had this constant array of emotions from the people that were walking by your desk. Fascinating.
Yeah. And then there's some that intentionally just don't know what to do with it.
And
like you, that's why you see a lot of road rage. I was driving home one day, and this truck pulls right out in front of me, and I'm thinking, all right, so I slowed down. And then he slowed down further, and I thought, I'm getting a little scared because he's not pulling off. Then finally he sped up, and then so I picked up my speed. He wanted somebody to toy with. I asked Spirit, why is this happening? Because he wanted to fight with somebody. And as soon as I started to notice that that's what he wanted to do, I chose not to participate. I actually got a chance to not have to participate. So one of the things I did was that as I'm driving, I'm tapping the meridian points that are on my face. There's the beginning of the eyebrow, the end of the eyebrow, the top of the cheekbone, underneath the nose on the lip, underneath the chin part, where, what do you call it, the divot point, there on the chin, and then on the, right about the collarbone, and then there's one underneath your armpit that's right at the breast line, and then I have added 2 more, which is the top of the head, and then the thymus. So as I was tapping that, what happens is it disrupts the signal I'm putting out there that says I have to project this guy to do this. He may have had a bad day, but I was projecting that it comes out of nowhere. I just had somebody try to hurt my kids, and I didn't even see it coming. So that was the topic I was working on. Because I was working on that topic, it was like, it linked right up because, that was 4 or 5 days ago, now this guy did it, it came out of nowhere, that was a sign. So then I stopped and said, I have to heal this. I don't even see it coming. And once but in the car, I chose I don't have to participate, I don't have to create this, you know, I'm just going to send him infinite love and gratitude, which changes the energy between our entanglement cord and whatever is going to happen to him. If he's open to receive it, it'll make him feel better. If it doesn't, it'll make him go away. He'll zig, I'll zag. It changes the alignment. And that's what happened, is that he ended up pulling off, and he wanted to pull back on, and then somehow he missed the ditch, he hit the ditch, so that was my benefit for me, is that his right tire went down, and so you can't get, you know, I don't know, he was being a dumbass. So that was just better off for me, so then I didn't turn down the road where I lived, because I didn't want him to follow me. Went around the block and never saw him again. So then I had to heal the fear that he's going to chase me down. So let's backing this up. It's so important to understand when you're creating closure. When you're at the point of happiness and then you get thrown off center and you don't know how to process it, there's always going to have to be closure somewhere. If you're unable to create closure at that time, that means you need to engage or at least figure out, stay conscious, because without having closure, you lose your power of choice, because you just become the over-identification of your issues. You become that identity. People say, well, my identity, if somebody asked me years ago, I would have said, well, my name's Brenda, and I'm a female, and I'm married, and I got 2 children, and I live in a great home. Well, those are characteristics of me. These are the things that I have collected on my journey. But who is Brenda? And what I learned, then the next part was, okay, so that I must be, oh yeah, I had this pain, and I have my sickness, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's not me either, because they are still character parts. And so when I started using the tools, all of that negativity just started to resolve. The thinking and being scared disappeared. And I noticed that the relationships of energies with people is that they could still be in their crap, but my cord was different with them, and we would engage different, and I'd be going, oh, this is great. Who am I? I am a spiritual being. I am me. I am the light of God, and it is a process of being self-esteem, joy, and I'm also the core aspects of me, which is what we usually get rid of when we're trying to date or get to know people. My first husband, he loves sports. I hate sports. So I figured, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to find what they like and get to know them and make that be part of your world. Come on, honestly, I did not like sports. I literally didn't. And who was I kidding? What did I like? Well, that was the hard part. I didn't know what I liked, because I had found out what you liked, and then I helped you learn, and I gave you and made you happy. That who was I? So I had to find myself. And those core pieces, I would be cued, and because I corrected myself, thinking, how am I going to get my mother to love me? Oh, my mother's mad, so don't do that. Oh, my mother's happy, do that. And it's all about this love, being in balance. Years later, I'm still doing that same program, but now her signature is in other people. And okay, so I just heard my husband say, well, he hates women that talk on the phone too much. Oh, without knowing it, my strategy of my program said I need to stop talking on the phone. And then rip that part of me out, because number one, if that's what women do, guess what? I'm a woman. I've got the parts. And even if I have the parts, I know I'm still a woman. Well, why is that bad? Then I had to heal out why I thought it was bad. Well, why am I? Because I wanted to make sure my mother loved me. And I wanted to make sure my husband loved me. And we don't realize we're doing it, but these are all the old programs. It usually isn't anything to do with the chronological age you are now, if that makes sense. So the closure in this case would be take all that emotional anxiety, the way that the self-talk is just going nuts. It has to constantly talk. And if it can't resolve it, then it's going to go find a person that they can talk to. And if you're angry, then usually you call in minions. And what are minions, Jen?
Oh, they're your army, the people that we joke and say that we have ascended minions, because we our group and the classes that we run and participate in mean that we tell each other we're not going to support your hells. So we're ascended minions. Regular minions are when you're not in the spiritual mindset and you want a fight. And something happened, and you can see this, and Facebook is a place where you just see people lose it, and just they put it up there on their status, and then all of a sudden the conversation thread is just like, oh yeah, what are you doing? I'll be there, yeah, get them, screw them, do this, do that, do this. And so then all of a sudden, the more comments that you get on your little status means the bigger army that you have.
Yes. And there, back in the day when I was a teenager, I didn't really have that, but when I did, it was important. Because it's all about the safety and survival, especially when you're really trying to find who you are as a teenager.
Well, and you want people to have your back.
I've learned that now. I had to heal a big thing because it seems like nobody ever had my back, and I learned that as a kid in my family of 6 kids, and I felt like nobody had my back. I didn't feel like my parents had my back. But now that I've healed so much, I have an incredible support group that has my back, that even if I don't even know what's going on, it's not that they have to fight my battles. They'll just say, oh, then you really don't know Brenda, do you? Or they will make sure that they protect my house, or they do. There's just all this support. I know that if I miss something, Jen's going to have my back by saying, oh, wait a minute, did you see that? No, I didn't. And so glad that she did, so then we can get back on. So there's a different way of supporting and loving one another. Back at, when she was going through her issues and I was going through my issues, she was there for me to let me just be human and to cry and to scream and do what I needed to do, because I had to get rid of those chemical peptides. And then after about an hour or two, I was done. And then she had gone through her issue, and she has to be real. She has to do what she's got to do. And I was there to let her do what she needs to do. But I'm also going to have her back by helping her. You know what? That's been 3 months. What can we do to help you so that this doesn't own you, so you don't have to become the prison of this? And then she'll say, oh, been that long? Yeah, I'm kind of done with it. So then we will get into discussion, and usually it's closure and healing tools. I mean, when she was breaking up with her husband, she really had been healing almost every time, every second, every minute. And, to the point where the separation was actually quite simple. It was scary at first.
Right. The initial part of it was definitely scary, but the process unfolded and became easier.
Yes. So the only way you can do this is to have the experience, and without the experience, then it'll just sound like just another thing. Like when people say law of attraction, and they get the basics. So like attracts like. Okay, fine. Well, I didn't attract this asshole in my world, and I have to say, yes, you did. And that's the hardest thing to do, because if you don't understand why that energy was put out there for that mirror to appear, then you're just going to take offense to it. But if your eyes and ears are open, then you'll hear the story.
Alright, you ready for a break?
Yeah, we'll take a break. Okay. Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah,
I just had a no-bake cookie. My husband is a wonderful baker, and he needs to do this for a living. But
Once he decides.
when he decides. But it's awesome. So I'm just trying to get the cookie out of my mouth and smile on the camera at the same time. Okay, so we were talking about hope therapy, but there's a lot of information I can throw you at once, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to overwhelm you. So what I really would like to do, because we just had the full moon, and
Again, so it's a blue moon.
it's a blue moon. So what I want to look at is what we're going to face. Because this is Monday, right?
Correct. And it's even though it's a holiday.
Yeah, so as this is Monday, what we're going to find out is strength. So apparently, what do we need the strength for? Okay, let's talk about strength before we read it. Strength isn't about the muscle mass that you have to require to...
Or the power or the leverage that you have to use.
But you don't even have to have the strength
to
endure.
Do something.
There was something called solitude. No, that wasn't it. Which one is it that the place where they put all those people and individual pods?
Solitary confinement.
Solitary 2.0. And what it was to see what they're made of. They would put them through all kinds of tests with their sensory system and bug them. Is like, don't let them sleep for 48 hours, and then play blasted music or crying babies. That one, I
know
push.
it's a reality show, right?
It is a reality show.
Okay.
But with the crying baby one, I know I'd hit that button. There's no way I'd want to endure it. No, do I want to have? I can't. No. But do you have the strength?
And as a
they
female,
always say,
your body kind of just reacts anyway when a baby starts crying.
Yeah, you don't need that.
No.
Now, when it comes to strength, about it is that can you stand tall? And they'll say you can always tell a person that has a lot of strength because usually they'll cry in quiet, or again, do you really need to have all that strength? The strength that I have, that I've learned to after healing and having all this closure, is the strength for my own conviction. I've asked myself, do I have the courage and the strength to just stand up to be me? And I do. And I think
that does take some strength.
It does, because especially when you're fighting against the conflict within yourself. Conflict, usually within us, is the stuff that we've built. Like you were working on something this morning. I heard her brain, as she was getting out of bed, I heard her wake up, not physically, but I just kind of knew intuitively that she was waking up, and it was immediately she had to go into judging herself. You know, what we're thinking, so the RTJP, which is the right temporal junction parietal lobe, and its main job is to think what other people think.
Because then I'm going to have to eventually, as roommate, enter the situation, and I'm going to have to figure out how to come into this situation. How am I going to enter into the room? Am I just going to walk in, and that's just the way that it is? It's about understanding the environment prior to
She already knows that we don't care what each of you do, it's the way you do things. But she's going on based on old programs. Mm-hmm. She's had me show up as her mother the last week or so. And it's like, Jen,
we're done with that.
Can we be? I'm Brenda, remember? I'm not the one that birthed you. So I felt her judge herself this morning. And the question that came to me was, do I participate in this? And it was no, I don't want to participate, and I'll just tell her later. She expected the criticism, and this is based on an old film of when she was younger, that, you know, she's got to, because she's done something wrong. So she has this right and wrong factor. So the first thing I would tell her is, Jen, if you believe that what you did, sleep in, wrong, if you're sleeping in, if you think that's wrong, then heal it. Put it on a scale from 0 to 10. If you think that
people are just going to be mad when I walk into the room.
There you go. Definitely tap that one out. Because, you know, this is definitely old people, different problems. Because you chronologically aged, you already know we don't care.
Right.
You know, like the other day you had our internet line, and I was like, oh darn, I have to wait. But then I felt moments before you actually got up and got out was, oh my God, they're going to be mad because they can't do anything because I have the internet. And I literally caught myself being angry, and I thought, wait a minute, is that even mine? Because then just you had come out with the cord, and I thought, that's a good question. Was it really mine? Because, yeah, I wanted to do something, but then I noticed I couldn't. But did I have to be who she thought I was and need to be mad? Or can I just be Brenda and say,
I'll figure something else out to do.
Because I'm not in the line with doing this right now. Because we really don't have to respond angrily.
So then you point out how I wake up as a grump, and my mom will tell you, which is a nice way to put it.
And you have to have the strength to tell people what you see. It's not your truth. People say, well, I see the truth. No, it's, for Soul Coach, I'm watching how she's losing a lot of power. So I have to have the strength that she loves me and knows that we're talking about something other than what humans do, you know, and point out and going, what the hell's wrong with you?
So
that's not what we do.
What's interesting is my mom said that since I was a little baby, I was not a morning person.
Born that way.
I was born that way. I am not a morning person from like birth, right? So
did you get some oil right here?
Yeah.
All right, wait.
So that's interesting. So buttons. The point is that people would just, so then if I'm not a morning person, what does that look like?
Like an evening person, yes.
Right. But I mean, what does it look like? I mean, as a toddler, does that just mean that like I automatically wake up angry, or does somebody have to trigger it? Does somebody have to provoke it? What does it look like that I'm not
You're
a morning
person, but with a different time zone.
Yes.
It's like one friend. You can't be awake in all time zones. I'd like, okay, watch me.
You're supposed to be born in
I got my
China
ear
or
caught in my
someplace.
ring.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Okay, sorry.
So, but But then there was
attitude.
the criticism that I got from the people that weren't like my mom just understood. Okay, well she's not a morning person, so I'm not going to talk to her. I'm not going to provoke her. I'll wait till she comes, and then we can start having a conversation. But there were other people who said, "Oh, it's this time of day, so then she must be doing dot dot dot, and if she isn't, then it's wrong." And so then it started becoming other people became the trigger of I'm doing it wrong. So, but then, then I started to, I don't know if I intuitively or what, just, was I that grump or was it just a reaction to what people were saying? Like you talk about the story of how you had to just become that angry person to endure coming home to an angry mom, and then that took away your power.
Yeah.
And so then it's just like, well, now people know, don't talk to Jen. To like Kurt, my friend that I do youth retreats with, he won't talk to me. He will give me a coffee mug. He will have made the coffee for these retreats, and he knows that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's like, da, 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 da. Oh, here she is. Here's the mug. Here's the coffee. Go get it. Then I will talk to you.
Yes, which is good that people know you.
That's very nice.
Now, what's funny is that I was just hearing your soul finally asking me the question, why does this happen? So I turned to my little chart that I have, and now I'm asking her soul, so when did this occur that she was not a morning person, that you don't approach her in that fashion? And it's said right at birth. And I thought, well, that's odd.
I was born at 10:20 in the morning.
Yeah, I'm going, that's odd. Okay, so this being angry, so what is the one thing that happens to her when she wakes up in the morning? And is that you're disrupting her dream. Okay? And apparently you didn't want to come out of the womb because you're in the middle of dreaming. And you were abruptly pushed. But is this, not being a morning person, is this even your program? No. It's your mother's. So if she's giving birth, would she try to control the whole thing?
Oh, Nellie.
So that must be yes?
Okay, I'm trying to remember the story because because I know that she had issues with the doctor, with my sister, who's old, was her first child. So this doctor, I was like one of the first children that he delivered at this hospital, but I think it was it me that this is the story? Because I was,
You could talk to your story.
that the doctor wanted to do something, so it was almost like, I'm trying to remember if this is my story or if I'm confusing other people's, but my mom was just upset at the situation that it was going to be according to the way that the male doctor was going.
Mom has such issues with men, but go ahead.
Right. We're feminists, don't you know? So,
she wants to show how you can control a man.
right, but she was so mad that this doctor was going to have it be on in his way, on his terms, and she was like, well, I want a natural birth, I don't want to have to do that. I mean, she was so, that my sister, what are they, the beta blockers, where they're like numb from like the waist down?
The epidural.
She did, but they was so strong in the 70s. I mean, well, my sister was born in 1969, so the way that they had it even back then, it was like they hadn't perfected
Spinal block?
it. But it was a beta block where it was just like the whole bottom part of her, and she was so angry at that doctor. I know, surprise. So.
But she expected that. She's gonna
right,
control
because
that.
she was gonna. These doctors showed up, wonderfully for her.
Okay, so this anger is yours? No, and this is what also causes you to re-enter the day. Okay, go.
I was just gonna say, well, you know what? So then it had to be on his terms, but then what I was doing had to be on my terms. So then that goes into the story we were working on originally, was that I can't dream the way that I want to, or do things the way that I want to, that it's got to be according to other people's. Like, we're unraveling the idea that I still have to be angry at men. because
Right.
that was the way that things were done in my family and my household.
Well,
But it's not doing me any bit of good to be doing that. And it was like, but that was my training.
correct, and like, I know, like, my husband is a gentleman. He likes to do little things.
Mhm.
It's the little things that matter. And when he does the little things for you, sometimes you're okay, and then sometimes he runs and puts his tail between his legs and goes, what did I just do? He don't have a clue what he just did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, if you say so.
Again, he's been healing that people attack him by making embarrassing states, so you might want to heal that one. But what it boiled down to is that when she wakes up in the morning, she has to reanimate herself. And what is it when she came in the world to reanimate herself in the world was that you have to be angry. You have to set the tone, and you have to set
And
the
I have
tone.
to be in charge, and the way that I'm in charge of the situation is through anger. Because I've conditioned you guys to respect that, and it's like,
Lord. We don't mind respecting, but good Lord, when you feel like you have to be on eggshells,
but it's
you
like,
don't do it very often.
but I don't even. But that's the other part of the equation is I don't even know I'm
No,
doing
you
it.
don't, and that's why you know it's okay for me to be direct the way I am.
Right.
Well, being a soul coaches, I also don't sit there and want to hurt you either. My intent is not to rub it in, hurt you, or cut you down. It's a
Right.
whole different story.
But now we're unraveling it to understand that this is.
But this is also related to the dreaming part. If your heart's not into doing something particular, and you have to work with a team of people, not here, but you have to work with a team of people in your other jobs. And one of the other jobs is that there is the group where each person has a say. But what it's showing is that it don't matter what you say, you're always going to get the nay voice, because
Right.
it's based only on one person's idea of how it's supposed to be in their world. And you're starting to realize that, but wait a minute, what position am I in? And I don't have any of the power of the voice?
Right.
And the question is, do you become a puppet? Or can you stand your ground and have the strength and the courage to say, we need to really decide who's the hierarchy here? Who's really in the final say into this? And and the one thing that you have to heal also, I think, I don't know where at, is when you do make that choice of this is what you want, the RTJP is saying they're just going to argue, fight, and then tell everybody and blast me and rip me a new one. And there's
Right.
a part of you that says, oh heck no, I don't want to do that.
Right. So I will quit before I even start the fight.
Maybe that's what we have to look at, is in that direction. So now what's funny is that my husband, talk about how things trigger. So when you go to the Sepia website, the coolest thing is it says Fate Magazine. And it just triggered a memory from 1979. And in 1979, how old were you?
6.
No,
that was you.
I was a junior in high school, so I'd probably be 16 or 17.
Okay, and then just somebody who's your friend. Is that
A
when you had
friend
your
of
arm
mine.
broken?
No,
No,
my
it was
arm
afterwards?
broken was in the 7th grade. This is right after I had my appendix burst and almost killed me. That's a different story. Anyway, I got back and a friend of mine there at school was helping me out with the homework and that, and let me borrow the homework so I wouldn't fail the world history class I was in. And she gave me, for reading, I was, into this kind of thing, she gave me 3 copies of Fate Magazine. The same one that appears to be the sponsor of Sepia here, which I thought was kind of cool. Well, they've been around for a long time then, because, that was 33 years ago or whatever.
A long
And I
time.
still got those 3, they were digest size if I remember right, the ones I had, but that was, like I say, in 1979.
So now we're gonna.
But I can't remember what stories they were in there, but they were really interesting. I mean, I know I liked it, and I asked her, where do you get, I never did find out where she bought it from or whatever, but
What's interesting about that is that my husband was really all into this, and he read. You should see all the endless books. Now, when he decided to marry me, none of this was revealed to me. Because he had shut it down so he could do what the world told him, and that you have to grow up and be a man and you have to be responsible. And he pretty much put all of who he was on the back burner. That to the point that when I started to really let myself shine, because I was even shy away from all this, from him too, I didn't want to tell him I had gifts, I didn't want to tell him any of this, and then finally in 1996 I said, oh, I got to tell him. And so I just started to talk about it and really get into it. And he's okay with it until I bought a building. Now I'm getting out into the public just a little bit more. Gonna have my business in there. And there was a part of him that's like, okay, I don't care, you can do all this, just keep it to yourself.
Just keep it quiet.
Keep it quiet.
Then you go and put a 10-foot by 8-foot sign up along the highway.
That's me!
And then I thought, okay, cat's out of the bag.
Oh, somebody says, what did he say he had? Scott, 3 what?
Oh, Fate magazine. I had 3 issues of Fate magazine. I don't know, I think they were old when I got them from a friend of mine that moved to Arizona when I was a junior. But she gave me
and we
3
believe it's
copies.
the same Fate magazine.
Yeah, I know it's the same Fate. I recognize the logo. I know it's the same Fate magazine that's been around. I wonder when they started publishing, because I remember back then they published stories of the
Usually marketing
paranormal
like
or the unexplained or things like
they
that.
busy.
And I'll have to look up their website and
You have to go up in the attic and dust them off.
Yeah,
find it. That'd be kind of
yeah.
cool.
I haven't read those. Like I say, it's been since '79 is the last time I read them. But I got them with my box of school stuff somewhere in the attic. I know I never throw out anything.
So when
And the other magazines.
yeah,
no,
along with the
those
other
are in the corner in the attic.
Oh, Scotty.
I read those from the articles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, but no, all I remember is Fate magazine, and I don't know. I used to read
look
about
at-
like the Bermuda
One
Triangle.
feather says fatemag.com. Thank you.
I'll have to go there. Thank you. Yeah, and check it out.
Because I would love to start looking at all that again. And I had been on this journey, and he just says keep it to yourself. And again, I put that how big of a sign on wheels.
Well, we used the old gravity box wagon wheels for it, so what's it, 5 or 6 feet tall by 10 foot wide or something?
Surprise! And then
we had it down along the highway until
he wouldn't
the
let
Department
me
of Transportation threatened to take it on us, so we had to bring it back up to the house here.
screw them. But what got me was that I have this big lighted sign, blinks.
Oh,
And he
yes.
wouldn't let me put on their free readings. Or $20 for readings, or no, what did you just say?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I say nothing.
Yeah.
64 years of reporting on the paranormal now.
Oh, that's how long they've been around. Wow.
Now we're at a green station.
Okay,
Ooh.
cool. Because I knew Fate magazine had been around a while when I
The
read the issues.
paranormal's been around for 64 years?
Well, I think.
Just kidding.
I was gonna say, was it? When
That's
was,
only
when
how
was
long
Edgar Casey? The 20s and 30s. I
I
can't remember
love
when
him.
he was. I don't remember. But I used to read books about him way back then.
But then
too.
finally we started to get a rift because he kept getting farther and farther away. And we're going to tell you a little bit of thing, but I don't know if you'll be happy with me or not. So we're just gonna,
probably not. You say that.
because you know me, I'll say whatever
oh,
it
is
is.
time up already?
He had a premonition
Oh, yes, that one.
Boy.
before we got married. Now, see, I was told by Spirit to, okay, I sat around and get married. All right, who am I supposed to marry? And I did not think that it was going to be somebody I knew. So 2 weeks later, after asking that question, I hear Scott. And finally, I go, Scott Bates? What? And I'm thinking,
But he's a nerd.
no, I didn't say that because I was a nerd too. And all I'm
You
thinking,
weren't no nerd.
That's the RTJP
Well,
thing.
we're not going to talk
What
about this.
other people think.
So finally, I called him up, and I was so nervous because I thought,
About the third
no.
time you called here, you got a hold of me, I think. The other 2 times, you wouldn't tell people answering the
The
phone
first
who you were.
time the mother answered, it was a woman. I swear to God, I thought, oh my God, he's married. I can't do this. Click.
Yeah.
Then the second time I called, I can't remember if I got your daddy or what, but almost
Well,
he
let me
pretended.
explain.
He pretended.
My parents lived next door to me, but we shared the same phone
It's-
line and
yeah,
everything.
it's
I
two
didn't
separate
have my own-
houses.
2 separate houses, but had the same phone. So,
But his dad sounds just like him.
oh my gosh.
And he played in me and just pretended. He goes, "Why?" He goes, "Okay, you know what? You probably want my son." I'm like, "What?"
She thought she was talking to me and was talking to my dad.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I think myself. Am I just embarrass myself or anything right now?
Oh boy.
You want to go out sometime? I think you want to talk to my son.
Jeez. So, anyways, we got together, and
Yes.
he
The rest
said, and I didn't find out until last December. What did I just find out, Scott? It's a transitional word, and it helps in a
He
conversation.
knew
But
that if you were going to go out together, that he was going to die. And
yes,
that
I had this premonition of my doom for some reason.
His doom.
And not just like,
I'm gonna kill you.
yeah, I didn't
His last
know.
name's Bates.
I
Put
figured
Psycho
that,
together.
yeah.
But no, that's just kidding.
My name wasn't Norman, no.
But you had this premonition that you were going to die. But because
Yes,
you
that was
wanted,
the
he's known
clearest
me for
thing.
10 years or prior and really liked
And when we
me.
dated for a week or two and I lived and I was still alive, and that was just different. So.
He thought I was worth
I put it
keeping.
Unusual. I lived after a week.
Yes, and so I put it all in the back burner. I just packed it away in the back of my mind, didn't think nothing more of it for another 18 years or so, or 17 years.
17 years. So, on this one fateful night, I said I'm done.
Yeah.
And I said I'm walking away, and I couldn't really walk too far because I had nowhere else to go. But I walked and I left.
Yes.
Then what happened was that he had to make a choice within his own self. Does he want to stay that person that he created, or does he want to get to know who he was again? See, and I didn't know about this. What part had to die was that human self, that part of him that was so over-identified that I have to be this way, I have to be that way.
Relationships look this way. It's tit
So,
for tat.
my
It's like the
premonition-
comedy shows.
Yeah.
That's the way
Semantics
that
and all
life
else.
is, and that kind of thing. So that's what.
So my premonition, I think, was thinking it was my physical self, but it was more of a, I don't know what you want to call it.
Well, you have to let
Who
that.
I was died, but I didn't physically die.
No, you were reborn again to some degree because your eyes and ears were open to
were
that
re-
self.
That's what the
I've
Bible
seen
talks about, being
so much
reborn
evidence,
of
yeah.
the Spirit. That I can't remember. Oh, you mean I'm supposed to go into my mom's womb and be born again? No, you're reborn of the Spirit, and that's what was going on.
Right.
That it wasn't a physical; it was a spiritual.
You know, we never did
I
check
s-
to see if Skype-wise, if anybody called us. I think we're okay.
Okay,
We don't have
I'll
that
figure
out.
that out.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he finally realized, wait a
Ego.
minute, I was not going to die. I really
Well-
wasn't going to die. And I'm going to tell you how important this is because when he finally realized that he wasn't physically going to die, he had to make a choice, and now he's on this track with me, and he gets to revisit all the stuff that he loves. Because when you listen to the station, there's, oh, I remember that growing up. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that. So it's waking up some part of himself that he thought was not required to be an adult. So he cut it up and ripped it out.
Because
And
it didn't go with that archetype of being the man, being the provider. This is what it means to have a family. This is what's going to do it. This kind of stuff, was put to the side.
I remember in high school, everybody remembers doing book reports. They still do that, I wonder, book
Yes.
reports? Do you do that, Jen? You're younger.
Yes.
And
Book reports.
So does our daughter.
I don't know,
They still do
I
the
don't know
book
if they
reports.
still do that, but I remember.
Even that seventh
one-
grader's going to be doing book
Yeah,
reports.
Yes.
I remember doing one book report on the Bermuda
Sorry,
Triangle.
incorrect.
That's where you got, when we did book reports, of course, we'd stand in front of class and tell them about whatever.
Oral readings.
And I did one on the
TV.
Bermuda Triangle, I remember. Then I did one on Atlantis.
Ooh,
And
really?
I think that's when I read Edgar Casey's book on Atlantis, was it?
Oh, I
can't
love
remember.
that.
That was one report I did. That was interesting. And that's a couple of them I do remember. That was when I was in high school. Yeah, I had all the books because, we used to go to all the flea markets. You could buy all the
Oh, cool.
used books for a nickel each or something, so.
One feather says a lot of people are going into the extreme shifts. He was ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I do not like being a pioneer because, I am just so thankful for so many pioneers that had to endure so many things in this
Yeah,
world.
usually the pioneers are the ones that get
Booted and da-da-da.
tortured or whatever.
But my soul has
Chastised,
known
I guess.
that because in many past lives I have seen where I have been that pioneer. But in this life, I am a pioneer of a different nature. But we are becoming the norm. And it's no longer does it have to be shoved under the rug and ignored and says it doesn't exist. We're starting to find out more about who we truly are. Yeah, oh wait, that's what Jen wrote. I saw that he wrote that. Yes, we have to do something or get off the pot. You fill in the blanks.
Okay.
But as I said, can I at least pull my pants up first?
Yeah, but that's what we
Yeah.
call path switch, and that's one thing that we as soul coaches do is we help with the path switching. The biggest path switch was when I put him in that position. I knew I had to go into a certain direction My soul says you can either do it with grace and ease or you can do it with the bitch slap. I says grace and ease, please. So I consciously made the choice to do it. He, on the other hand, well, if his soul wasn't on board, it was shit or get off the pot. Here's your bitch slap. What are you going to do? And now he's learning that he can choose if a path switch is coming. It's what part of your life that you need to address, look at, create closure. I mean, because when you create closure, like with Hope Therapy and with EFT and all of that, what it does is it dissolves the chemical peptides. It tells the brain stop creating that same storyline. It breaks it up and creates something different. The energy goes back to who you are, which your true essence, and that becomes effortless. You become happier. You seem to all of a sudden have more self-esteem. You get to learn that you can react differently. You don't have to go into that. And then the courage is to stand there and say, this is who I am. And you don't have to fight, you don't have to prove, because if you do, then go back to healing. It just becomes a very smoother ride. Jen, would you go back at all?
No way.
And I wouldn't either. And Scott hasn't had enough experiences yet before he could say, would you go back? Would you go back, Scott?
Probably not.
Probably not. That means he hasn't had enough healed. We're just about done with this show, and that really bugs me because I really like doing the show. And so I'm glad we have the opportunity
We'll be back here
on Friday.
for you and Jen while I'll be at work listening.
You'll be working, yeah. You'll be here?
Sure,
You better be.
I think so.
I
2
hope
to
so.
4.
2 to 4.
Eastern Standard
Yeah.
Time.
Okay.
So,
Getting up in the last minute or two here.
But yeah, we recognize that we're not going to go back to who we are. A lot of people, since my path switch, have said, "Oh my gosh, you're glowing."
oh my God, yeah, I can't, yeah, so many people did that all the time. You know, oh my gosh, Jen, you've changed for the better.
Right.
And it's always a good thing. So what they want you to do is from this point on, from the rest of the night until we talk Friday, is learn to understand what a reflection is. And a reflection is not about judgment, but non-judgment. All right, ready for the outro?
Yes.
So we want to thank you and very much appreciative to all that you do and hanging in there as we were trying to get it fixed. We'll get it right one of these days, or all the days.
Yes,
All
it'll
right,
go smoother.
stay blessed.